Good afternoon, everyone. We are confirming that we're streaming on all the platforms and letting some folks in, and then we will get started. If you are joining us on YouTube, thank you. Your comments and questions on YouTube come in. They come in a smidge delayed. So I'll pause a little bit more to make sure that I can catch those comments and questions. If you are joining us on Facebook, I kind of get those right away. And of course, if you're joining us on Zoom, I also get those pretty much right away as well. So let me get all these other folks in the room. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This one's going to be a doozy. I like to break things down really well so they're really clear. And then I'll take you to that eagle's view, right? Of like, okay, what am I really supposed to be doing? I think one of the biggest challenges when you are a entrepreneur is, what am I supposed to do? What do I get somebody else to do? And can I get just enough of an understanding so that when it's time for me to do it, or time for me to hire somebody to do it, I know what I'm talking about, right? And so I think for a lot of folks, they focus on marketing and communications like social media, their website, and they're not really fully understanding their process from awareness to getting paid, right? Not just getting paid, but having somebody that loves your product or service so much that they tell other people about it, because that's really the ultimate goal, to not have to work so hard in generating those leads. And so I'm going to, like I said, take you from a very microscopic place and then pull back a little bit. And the reason for this, we actually have tried to smush this into 2 hours, and we can't. We've tried like 8 different ways, and it's just not possible. So you guys are going to get this part, and then you guys are going to get a recording of like implementation, because it just takes too long, and I just didn't think either side was deserving of being cut short. So you get kind of 2 trainings in one today. Okay, so here's the deal. When you understand how people find you and what that process looks like for you and for them, you can quickly identify if you have gaps or if you need support. But you can also quickly identify where you need to put more of your money, right? A lot of people will throw money at ads and advertisement. And I always say, is your process prepared for the customers you want to receive? And most of the times it's not, right? There's a lot of huge gaps when we think about, where our customers are at or where we want them to be or what that looks like. And sometimes we kind of forget some of those spaces. So I'm going to walk you guys through it. For those of you that are in an all-in program or an all-inclusive program, this stuff will sit inside your portal. You'll have more access to more of the information. We're actually, in the process of rebranding. We all feel that pain, and so you'll get more information through the next couple of days added to your portal. So every time you log in, just remember, if it sends that notice, you just got to go back up to the new stuff we added. For those of you that are just checking in with us this time, you will get an email. You actually get 2 emails. The first email will be some of our templates and the link to the recording. And then the second email will be the second video that goes to this and the templates that go to that recording, okay? So all of those things will come in the next 3 days or so. All right, so I'm gonna turn my screen off per usual, because otherwise you'll just see that side of my head because my screen's over here. And then I'm gonna start us on this. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I do pause occasionally and look in the chat to see if you have any questions. And then I bounce back into the presentation, okay? All right. Okay, so I don't know about you, but have you noticed that there's this like surge in tipping? You go to the drive-through for like regular fast food and they give you the option to tip. And I just thought this was really funny because I feel like people are trying to compensate for loss in sales by adding this tipping feature. And I think it's great that, the option is there, but unless the service is an actual service and not a task like duty task, I feel like it's inappropriate. And so I love this hello, welcome. The price is $1.50 because that's really what people are doing to try and close that margin of revenue. So the biggest question or biggest kind of frustration I think most people have is trying to figure out what does it mean, the difference between a pipeline versus lead generation versus trying to figure out, am I nurturing right? Is this a CRM? What am I supposed to do with it? Do I have to have it? So let's first break some of those things down. I often say it's like, a bucket full of tomatoes because most of us, initially we think of tomatoes as a vegetable and then we have to remember, oh yeah, it's a fruit. And also there's like 20 different versions of it, right? And that's kind of what your pipeline and funnels are all about when we talk about getting those customers to you. So lead generation is literally the process of attracting and capturing folks, right? These are the things that we do to bring awareness that we even exist. If you have a brick and mortar, it is like turning on your on sign outside your window. It's really important to make sure that you are taking care of what it looks like when that customer initially sees you or your business. And this includes any of your content that you create, any of your website management. This also includes anything that you do on social media or advertisement. I am such a huge, big fan of events and webinars. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how many thousands of dollars I spent on paid advertising until I realized really a system to do lead generation with a warm market um, because I was just kind of cold calling folks with my paid advertisement. And then creating a referral program. In my referral program, if you refer someone to me and they sign a contract within 60 days, you get 10% of whatever that contract is. And that's a really good way to kind of keep things going. I think that, people are a little bit motivated by financial stability. And so I want to share that award with them. And so my referral program is just that. My clients know that after we onboard. Most of my clients are referral clients. And so it's great that, we kind of keep that system and cycle going. This is considered the top of your sales funnel, okay? When we talk about qualified leads or qualified prospects, this is someone that you've identified as a possible or potential customer or client, not just random folks that you're kind of just broadcasting. Broadcasting is like having a billboard. You're just letting everybody see it, whether they're a good customer fit for you or not. And that really is not helpful because you're going to waste a whole lot of energy trying to get them to convert if they're not really your customer. The next part of that funnel is, or prospect point, is lead nurturing. And this is really that relationship part. This is kind of where you're dating, you're getting to know each other, you're really filtering their qualifications, right? Realtors do this really well. They want you to, have financing secured and all of those things before even coming to them, right? Because they know that time gets eaten up so fast in the dating process. When we think about realtors, it is them getting to know you, you telling them what kind of house you're looking for, your forever home, or if it's kind of more of an investment, what that looks like. You're really trying to build this relationship, even though you might not be connected so much. This is them saying, oh, I like that information that you shared in that email. Or, oh man, I saw that social media post. That was great. This is also that segmented email. Remember, we did that back in the email training, really personalizing your communication. Lead scoring and qualification is kind of the same thing. So, for example, let's say you are a travel agent. You can kind of identify folks that are ready to travel in the next 30 days or folks that are ready to travel in the next 9 months. Is it a solo trip? Is it a family reunion? That kind of thing. It's just your way of measuring, how do I take this person from being interested and a potential client to delivery and getting paid. This is where you're going to actually bridge the gap. A lot of this is learning about each other, heavier on them learning about you. The more they know about you, the more likely they will engage in that sales process. So, sharing your information over and over, it might seem like it's too much on social media. I promise you, it's not. The way the algorithm is designed, they're missing a majority of the information that you post. And what you don't want is to be scared to post too much and then not post enough. And then when they do go back and try and research or figure out who you are, your values, or what you're about, is that information missing, right? Because you were afraid to post too much. So you want to make sure you're really, intentional about getting who you are out there, because some people are going to read your post at 2 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night when your office hours are closed, and you only have your website and your digital presence to share who you are with that potential customer or client. Next, you have what we call the sales pipeline. And this is really a systematic way to move people through your sales cycle. A lot of times we put this in stages. So the initial contact might be at a networking event. The initial contact might be at a fundraiser event. The initial contact might be them Googling your information and filling out a lead form on your website. The qualification part is, are you the right fit? I have to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I was looking for software to use. And you know how usually they do a demo and they go through the demo. And of course, they're really salesy in the demo because they're trying to get that, sale closed. And this person, she was very upfront, very straightforward. Her questions were hyper direct. Like, I was like, she's being a little bit rude, but she wasn't. She was just so specific in her questioning. She knew her product really, really well. And at the end of the conversation, before she even demoed the system to me, the software, she said, I don't think you're a good fit. And I was like, wow, I mean, I'm a little bit taken back. I thought I did my research. I thought I'd be a good fit. And she was like, yeah, I don't think so. And here's why. I'll send you a recap, but here's what our software system does. Here's what you're looking for. You would have to create all of these bridges in order to make it work. And that's not a good fit for us. And it wouldn't be a good fit for you. And I just thought, man, that qualification probably saved me a whole lot of time and frustration. But more importantly, it saved her reputation for her software, right? Because now I'm not going to be a sour customer complaining about the software, because it's never us, it's always the software, right? This also includes moving them through the proposal stage. You have people or organizations or businesses, depending on your client, that take a long time to figure out if they want to convert. And you need to figure out how long, on average, it's taking for me to convert my clients. If you know that your conversion is taking 6 months and 30 hours worth of work, 15 touch points, then you might want to redefine the cost of the service or product that you have. A lot of times we have resentment built into our pricing because we know that it took a lot of time to create the product or provide the service, but it also takes a lot of time to get people to convert. Which is why my primary way of conversion is presenting, whether in person or virtual, because you're already a warm market. You're probably already interested in what it is that I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And you're probably already, trying to connect the dots. Should I do it or should I let Nisi do it? And so I can really narrow down my stage time because I know this information. Helping you narrow that down gives you the opportunity to really create some really forecasts in your revenue. I know for each of my businesses when our slow conversion months are based off of who the client is and what their behaviors are at that time. So we have some clients, we don't hear from them during the summer months. And then we have some clients, we don't hear from them during like the winter holidays. And so it's really important to know what that looks like. The clients that we teach CPR, 9 times out of 10, they don't have a class in November, December, and January. So I've structured my training calendar to not include any open registrations for those classes because I would really be wasting my time and energy trying to get just a handful of folks in there when I know it's just not the time for that revenue, right? So understanding that sales pipeline, those stages, and the time spent in between can really help you narrow some margins and save some money. Okay, your customer relationship management. So this is usually a system, software system. Doesn't have to be, extravagant. A lot of folks are using just an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet, and that's totally fine. The problem is, as you become more mature in understanding your clients and their needs and their behaviors, you also want to include any historical relationship stuff like conversations that you've had, chats for coffee that you've had. All of that information can be kept in a more sophisticated CRM. So we encourage folks, especially micro or solo entrepreneurs, to use Wix. Wix is what we call a SaaS system. It means all the things that you need to do to manage your client are sitting in one place, right? So we can literally create social media, emails, communicate via chat, communicate via newsletter, all of those things from one system. And more importantly, we can identify when a person comes back into that system, when they visit different sites, when they chat with us and have questions, it identifies this person as a user. If they become a member of that site where they, receive other information, we can go into great detail. I can tell you how many events they've participated in. I can tell you how many times they've opened up a newsletter. This is really important, especially if I have a specific campaign that I want to put out there. I know who I need to talk to, and it just allows me to kind of tag those folks and personally communicate with them. Or as my team grows, and maybe I started with the communication, but now somebody else is managing that account, they can come into this space and kind of pick up where I left off without it being this hiccup or this long, barrier in between figuring out what that customer or client needs next. So what's the relationship between the two? Your lead generation feeds new prospects into your system. So this would be any of your contact forms on your website, any lead generation posts that you do on social media. If you're at any events and you're collecting name and email, that's your lead generation. Your nurturing is your communication to them. This is you dating them. This is you spoiling them. This is you sending them virtual flowers. This is all of those things for that person. At some point, you want to move them into the direction of that sales process. The sophisticated or best way to do that is to put them in some sort of CRM system that can manage and collect all of that information. When I first started doing this years ago, I think the first time I started doing this, I actually used a platform called Trello. Some of you use Monday.com, some of you use Asana, some of you use ClickUp. Most of those platforms have a template for you to have a CRM. Again, this is just, a more sophisticated way to keep track of your clients or potential clients and your historical information together. So lead generation is like finding potential buyers. Lead nurturing is giving them tours and information. Your sales pipeline is tracking their progress towards purchase. And then your CRM is how you really hold everything together. All right. So let's talk historically, like how things have changed and what it looks like now and where things are going. When we think about lead generation, especially in this digital space that we're in, that traditional digital era was really website forms. This was you printing out your contact information on a piece of paper at an event. This was banners on buses and at local, like baseball fields, billboards, things like that. So it was almost 100% one-way communication. And then it was very manual to kind of make it both ways. Then we moved into the social media revolution. And this is where I kind of came in when I started my digital marketing. And really, it's important to understand social media, the way it started versus the way it is now, is completely different. My very first insight into behind the scenes of managing a social media account was with American Heart Association. And back then, they asked the question, hey, have you heard of this thing called Facebook business page? And that was my introduction to managing social media behind the scenes. Because being a user and sharing, pictures of your cat and dog versus managing a business account are completely different, right? This was the beginning of two-way engagement. And this was really critical because your big time companies and organizations that spent billions of dollars in one-way communication or one-way advertisement were now all of a sudden in competition with mom and pop shops, with startups, with side hustles. And that really had never happened before. And so it made them kind of nervous. Blogs became really popular. My very first blog was way back when you had to actually write a blog on, I think it was like blog.com or something like that, or .blog. Like there wasn't even systems where you could actually upload a blog into a website. You had to actually create a different URL for it, right? And that was a great way to generate leads. Pinterest is really a blog format, but with pictures. And so a lot of people generate good business, long-term longevity business leads from Pinterest because its design is really similar to that of a blog. It actually has the longest shelf life of any social media platform. LinkedIn also came into the picture, and this is where we could talk business to business, where we were literally taking those very formal BNI networking, breakfast meetings and turning them into virtual conversations, right? And this is where customers also started to communicate what they liked. This was the baby introduction of influencing because customers were telling folks what they did or how they did it or what service or product that they used. Then we moved into automation, and this was great because we could, produce an email sequence so we could kind of fix it and forget it, which is great. We could figure out if somebody was a good fit for our business or service pretty well. And then we could start bringing them into that CRM. But most importantly, that multi-channel campaign orchestra. And this is where that sounds like a big name, but this is where if you think about those third-party scheduling platforms where you can schedule to Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok, like all of those things, create a newsletter, blog, when that came into play, because now you didn't have to recreate the wheel for every platform. And this was huge in marketing because we spent a lot of time writing content and then rewriting it for each platform. And then, of course, where we are today, my favorite world, AI. I'm excited about AI. I think, with any type of infrastructure that gets put out there, especially in tech, and because it's so competitive, the most important thing is to really be mindful if there are changes in rules and regulations or implementations in that so that you kind of stay safe for yourself and for your clients and customers. A lot of people are asking questions about governance around AI. For most of my clients, we use a tool called Grammarly, and they actually have a kind of system that you connect to anything that you produce. And it just gives a soft way to say, some of this information was produced or created from AI, but it's not this like big newsflash thing. And I think that's really important that we're transparent because transparency builds trust. Okay, so what does this mean? We went from broadcasting to conversation. So we went from massively producing information and saying, this is how we're going to make a hamburger and this is how you're going to like it, to saying, how do you like your hamburger, right? This gives the customer insight or, the opportunity to say, hey, the way you made that hamburger isn't working for me. But it also gives, the business owner the opportunity to, in real time, make it better from manual to automated. Um, when I tell you the handwritten spreadsheets that we would get back from lead generation events and the gruesome hours we spent trying to transcribe that into a virtual or digital platform was awful. So having any automated approach to communicate, collect leads is really helpful because you can scale. You can go to a networking event and have an app that scans business cards and automatically puts it into a spreadsheet for you. Like where we're at is so, so different. I can remember years ago, I had a system. I would go to a networking event. I would take a photo of the business card because heaven forbid if I lost it. And then I would leave the networking event, sit in my car, and email each person from my phone one at a time. It was great to see you. It was, at this such and such networking event. Hope to see you soon, kind of thing. And I try to put in something that, was, something that we talked about as a reminder. Definitely have come a long way. The other thing that we've moved from is from being generic to really being personalized. And this is super important. It's super important because when people feel like you are talking directly to them, they are going to convert higher and faster. If you speak to their pain point and how you can fix that or change that, they're going to go in and say, you know what? You absolutely are right. They're going to trust you. You're going to show your credibility. It won't feel salesy. It'll feel like a relationship. And they're going to convert out of trust more than the product or service that you have. Here's some things to really pay attention to. No more are we doing guesswork. It's not about guesswork. It's really about you taking the data that you've been given and making better decisions. It's really important to know and understand the information that you're collecting and what it looks like. Here's the great thing about AI. You can receive information about clients or potential leads, set it in a spreadsheet, and turn it into AI. So whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and say, hey, can you summarize this information? Can you tell me how long does it typically take before I convert a client after the initial contact? And it will give you an idea. It's going to spit back information, and you can continue to have conversations with it to get that information. Now, obviously, of course, it's AI, so always check your data, check the information that they spit back, but it does give you some insight without you having to be, an analyst. So here's some things that are really important to watch. Zero party data. So what this means is privacy has been a big issue for several years, and more people are turning off that privacy or turning on that privacy option. Initially, people were automatically opted in. If you agreed to the app or the platform, you were automatically opted in for them to share your information. Now, depending on your device, depending on the platform or the information on the platform, you really have to opt in. Even your cookies is part of a law about, sharing your information, collecting that data on you. You really have to give that information. So for you as a client or as a business owner, what's important to remember is just ask them. Ask them for the information. They would rather give it to you than for you to get it from some third party. And your information is probably going to be much better, and your leads are probably going to be much more qualified. AI powered optimization. These predictive analytics are super helpful. Use them. Smart segmentation. When you're communicating, segment your communication. Speak directly to who it is that you want to talk to. It might sound great that you've got 5,000 people on your email list, but if only, 30 or 40 of them are opening up your email, there's a problem. You got to figure out how to communicate with these folks. And the real way to do that is to segment. Make sure you're talking to them about what's important to them. And here is my personal favorite, voice and conversational marketing. I don't want to say it too loud, but does anybody have an Alexa in their house? Because this is how you're going to really get folks to start to engage. There's a way for you to add your business to these platforms, whether it's the one that starts with a G, Hey G, or Hey A. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to set anybody's phones off, but these are ways to really gain some optimization. Right now, the way you probably are seeing it outside of those two devices is when you are out and about and you're looking for maybe a store or a restaurant, or you Google a store or a restaurant. When you Google a store or a restaurant, a lot of times it's not just the possible store or restaurant, but it's also the location, the website link, the hours, if there's a digital menu and there's directions, right? It's giving you all this information. And what's going to happen is all of that stuff is going to start to be audible. So it's really important to make sure that even your landing pages have some sort of chat feature, especially if you can add an audible chat feature. That's going to be where we're moving into next. All right, I'm going to pause and go to the platforms and check for questions really quick. If you have questions, drop them in the chat, and we will get those answered as soon as possible. I do see two. Someone asked me what I meant. Oh, I can go back to that slide, sure. One sec. So when it comes to the customer relationship management, this is a portal. There are many systems and software that you can use. When I was referencing, the question was, can you talk more about Wix as a CRM? So when I was referencing Wix, the reason that I like to use it, especially for new or micro or solo entrepreneurs, is because everything is in one place. So you can send social media from your Wix. You can send emails. You can create blogs. When your clients visit your site, you can add them as members. And every time they make a move on your site, whether that's purchasing tickets or asking you questions, all of those things are going to show up right in your CRM, in your management tool for your customers. Let's see. Can you give examples of audible chat features and how we can use them in a small business? Yeah, absolutely. So the first big thing to do is make sure that your site is on and registered with Google My Business. This is going to be your primary place for people to speak into their devices, so to speak, and get your information, presented back to them. For your chat, your audible chat, there's AI systems and softwares out there. I believe the one off the top of my head is Roya. I'll look it up and I'll make sure I send this out too. But basically, it is like a voice service and you can set it up as a chat. So it's like somebody calls your, information number, or they chat audibly on your platform. It's an additional feature that you would have to add. And what you do is you create all of these responses, possible responses to kind of some of the basic questions. Like, so let's say if I'm a restaurant, I can do an audible chat feature. And the chat feature would pop up just like a little box, and it would say, welcome to XYZ, coffee shop. How can I help you today? Just like a chat would. And then you would go in and you would be able to, autofill or auto populate questions. I don't know if you remember, but kind of like on Facebook, where you would go into the messenger, you could like create these drafted responses if they had questions. Same thing, but you're doing it with a voice. You can select your voice, you can select the responses. And when you do that, it's easier for folks to communicate. It's also an accessibility tool that you can use as well. And I'm just making a note to make sure I send out the examples of those audible chat features or voice features that you could add to your website. And let's see. Yep, I can go back to that one. Someone asked about another slide real quick. Lead generation. So the question is, what's the best lead generation? This really depends on your business, right? So I myself, I am more of an infopreneur, and it takes a long time to communicate that I can train or facilitate or provide information on a topic when I do that in flat media, right? So a social media posts, things of that nature. It's much easier if you hear me speak. So video is where I go. So webinars, videos on demand, offering free videos, speaking and for free events. Those are my primary ways to do lead generation, because one, I'm probably talking about something that you're interested in. Two, I have different ways for you to engage with me. So you can engage in kind of this space, this learning space, this DIY space. You can engage as someone that is, I want to do it, but I just want somebody to hold me accountable. Or you can engage as, I don't want to touch this. Here, I want you to do it. But what happens is, when I was doing paid advertisement and I spent good chunks of money on the quality of the content as well as the actual, advertisement payment, it just wasn't delivering really well. I would get a lot of people that would respond, but when I would move into that nurturing to figure out like if they're really qualified or if this is something that they're really interested into, we just weren't vibing, right? We just didn't feel like we could vibe together. And that takes a lot of time. So when you figure out where your people are and how to reach them as directly as possible, it will decrease that margin of the work you have to do to nurture them to conversion. So this way you don't have to do, spend a bunch of money on paid advertisement. Even for my social media, I have it for credibility because you would be silly not to have social media. But 99% of any of my leads are coming from a speaking engagement or a webinar. And so that's where I spend my time at, right? If you want to share your business, I could probably give you an idea. Give you 1 second for that, and then we'll move on to the next. Okay, so she's in finance, like CPA in accounting, or okay. So yeah, so Finances is tricky, right? And if you are doing CPA work for businesses, small business, micro businesses, when it's more of a personal sale, right? Even though it's a business that you're doing the finance for, you are really talking to a person. So you're not really business to business, you're really business to customer, because it's one or two people that are making those decisions. And that's part of our next segment to understand. And so I would provide training. Here's my thumb. Anything that somebody can quick Google, you should quick give away, right? I wouldn't provide a training that had a paywall unless it went into great detail, because that's the difference. You're not going to go into great detail when you do a Google search on something. You're going to get a whole lot of information. The floodgates are going to open up and it's going to be overwhelming and too much. But if there's a little thing, like problem solving tips on QuickBooks, right? I would do a Finance Friday video and I would put it on all my platforms and I would teach people a quick tip on QuickBooks, for example. And because what happens is when they hear you, when they see you and you build trust, they're going to trust you not just for the information that you share, but trust that you can manage what they need, figure out their pain point. And the more that they see you, the more that they're going to trust you. This is the influencer, segmentation of marketing communications that we've moved into. People want to hear you. They want to see you. They want to know, what are you doing and how are you doing it? And are you really the subject matter expertise? Are you really going to talk to me about what's important to me? So I might find you on YouTube, but I'm not really on YouTube, but I might see that you're also on Facebook. So I'm going to go to Facebook and I'm going to find you and I'm going to watch all your videos and do some problem solving for a couple of weeks. And then I might go to your website. And then once I go to your website, I might contact you just to get the newsletter, right? If you're giving away these gems every Friday, I wonder what you're giving away in the newsletter. And that might be your lead generation. But I would definitely be, specifically when you're in consulting or any trust-based type of service where you are the brand, you are the product, you are the service, put yourself out there to do the lead generation. That way you qualify quick, you build trust quick, and more importantly, you convert quick. All right, so let's go into the next section. So this is the point where I just want to say, breathe. So the next section is really for us to understand. I think we've all been taught about, know your ideal client. Who's your ideal client? And that sounds great when you're talking to them, right? That's the communication part when you're figuring out who you should be talking to or how you should be talking to them. When you're talking about your sales pipeline, or when you're talking about, what that funnel looks like for you, it is a little bit different. Again, I'm going way deep and then I'm going to pull us all out together, okay? So if you are business to business, meaning the business product or service that you provide does straight up business with other businesses, meaning it's not just one or two people that make decisions. They've got a budget that has eyes on it. They've got a fiscal year, a revenue schedule, things of that nature. You need to figure out your ideal customer profile. And so what this means is the way you get to conversion is understanding their business traits, right? How big is their company? Is the price point that you have too much for them, right? What's their revenue look like? Are they able to manage a contract with you or purchase from you? Is what you provide for them based on geographic location? Right? We used to do management for a fertilizer soil company. And, geographically, we were expanding and doing great, but they had to really put in a new hub in a different city in order to truly expand and have really good contracts, because nobody's coming, an extra 70 miles out of the way to haul dirt if somebody else is going to do it for them around the corner, right? So geographically, with the service or product that you provide, is there, a hiccup in that? And then technology wise, are you too sophisticated in your technology for the business that you want to work with, or vice versa? We have government contracts, and one of the rules right now is, especially with their, cybersecurity and everything, is that we use their devices. And so sometimes I could be walking around with like 3 or 4 laptops, if I'm traveling for work, because they don't want me to use my device. Now, my device is it's pretty nice. I'm pretty excited about it. It's got all the bells and whistles. Their device is like 100 pounds, and I have to use a cat card and the thumbprint and, all of those things, right? So where are you guys at in technology if that's part of your business? And then who has the authority in the budget? Because even if you pitch well, if you pitch to the wrong person, or you pitch to the entry level person, and that's got to go to somebody above them, and that's got to go to somebody above them, well, think about how long you're expanding your lead generation, that time from contact to conversion, right? You could be talking months, versus if it's one person making the decision and okaying the budget. This is also true when you're getting paid. Understanding, our first big contract, I was like, woo woo. And I thought for sure in like 30 days I was going to get that check. It was 6 months later. We had to do the work for 6 months before that first check came in, because they had so many steps in the way. This is, again, important to understand, because your conversion is not just, yes, we're going to do business with you. Your conversion includes you actually being paid, right? And then where are you at in your business? What does that look like for you? Because if you are in that very much growth stage, can you manage bringing on a potential business contract or business to business work? Are you stopping in to do a little bit of consulting? Are you going in to lift a whole project or program? Like, what does that look like? And who's going to be the decision makers that you have to convince that you are the right organization? So this is why it's important to know who your clients really and truly are. If you are doing heavy lifting business to business work, you need to know this about that client, that potential client, because you are going to build your cycle, your conversion cycle, around whatever it is that they do or don't do. If you do a lot of government work, understanding the fiscal year and when funds are available, but also understanding when they make decisions about funding, not just when they're available. So this is what's important when you have that business to business model of work that you're going to be doing. So when we think about buyer persona, this kind of brings us down a little bit more narrow. This is usually when you have a micro business. Couple of people are there, but it's 1 or 2 people that are in charge. Figure out who you need to be talking to. Is it a job title or specific role? I'll give you an example. In my CPR first aid business, we teach, to multiple organizations throughout the country. And when I first started kind of pitching the idea that we could come in to speak, I was pitching to manufacturing organizations, any sort of large, employment group or hub, any place that required CPR. But the person that I was always asking to speak to was somebody in operations, because I didn't know who else to talk to. Like, who's running it? That's who I should talk to, right? So I would often get the COO or his assistant kind of thing. And then I learned that maybe I should speak to somebody more in HR, because they kind of had, employee welfare on their plate. And that was still a very long process. And it wasn't until I realized that I need to go to a place where they have either an engagement specialist, an occupational specialist, or a learning and development specialist. That's who I need to talk to. I don't even work or connect or go out of my way to reach out to organizations that don't have one of those specific job titles or roles. I mean, they call them different things, but it's a kind of the same role. because they're the ones that need this stuff provided, and they're not always trained up to provide it. And I make it easy by saying, hey, we can come in and do this for you. All you have to do is provide the space or whatever. And so I'm actually helping them look good in their role. So it's benefit and buy-in to that role, that person, but it's also benefit buy-in to that organization, right? So this is why understanding, the persona of who you're selling to is also just as critically important. Okay. Again, are they the decision maker? And what information do you need to have ready for them? Sometimes we will have information like just like data on organizations that take this training, organizations that are connected to corporate wellness. And then I will always have references and referrals that are happy to speak on my behalf, because it's one thing when I say I'm great, but it's another thing when somebody else says it, right? You're really focused more on creating content that will convert that person. So get buy-in from that specific person or professional if that is who your client is, okay? You want to make sure that all of your social media platforms are really well versed in what you do and the benefit to this particular persona. Because if they don't see the benefit for themselves, they'll go to somebody else, right? Are you solving a problem for them? Are you creating a solution in their everyday work life that will say, you know what, I'm going to pick Nisi over this other place because she's able to do all of these things. I can see based off of her digital presence that these are things that she can do. Okay? And then finally, the avatar. So most of us, when we're first starting our business, especially if it, kind of started as a side hustle, or one of those little I shouldn't say little, one of those big 5 to 9 things that we do in order to generate funds before we kind of, jump all in and leave our JOBs kind of thing. You're really looking at a person to person, and you're really looking at relationship. Here's the thing about this. Their decision making is based off of how they feel and what they're experiencing in life. This is important to know because you don't want to be out of touch with what's happening to that particular avatar. And I've used this example before, but it's such a good, relevant example. On TikTok, there are a couple of ladies who are influencers, brand deals, with other organizations and companies, doing great, hundreds of thousands of followers. Critically, when we were going through the election process and everything else, they decided to launch a pajama set, like Christmas pajama set, where how families are matching in matching pajamas and everybody takes pictures, right? The price point for each of these pajama sets was $100 per person. When times are uncertain, especially for your audience, especially financially, producing or launching an item that would cost a family $400 or $500, because most family members are, doing it at 3 or 4, 5 members, for a photo is insensitive to what's happening with your audience. And this is why you need to know your avatar. So a lot of times in marketing and communication, we say, know your customer, know them really well. We mean know the avatar when you're speaking to them, because that decision making is based off of what they're experiencing. What are their demographics? What are their values, right? We can look on social media right now and we can see a great divide between those that have same values as us and those that have different values from us. And so it's important, where do you sit in that space? It used to be as long as you were neutral, you were fine, but it's not anymore. People really want to know, like, I'm not spending my dollar until you tell me how you feel about the things that are happening in my world. Lifestyle choices. Do we agree on lifestyle choices? Is my client really only making purchases, once a month because of, economic stability? Or are they, impulse shoppers? What does that look like? Are my clients on social media all the time, or are they once in a blue moon? And then what are their pain points? Am I talking directly to them? Am I solving or fixing something that matters to them? This is when you are doing really niche down business to customer marketing. This is what you need to know. And the reason you need to know this is because you don't want to make mistakes like the pajama ladies and be insensitive to what's happening to your customer as you launch a campaign for sales for yourself. So the conversion is more emotionally driven. So how you communicate to them is more emotional. Be mindful, around the holidays when you're communicating to, let's say, moms, a lot of them are focused on getting their kids gifts. So maybe your push to them to get them something is October, early November, like, hey, don't forget you when you start Christmas shopping, get this for yourself first, right? Whatever that looks like for you. Just understand, if you are talking to an avatar, you're talking to a single individual, and you really need to understand emotionally how you can get them to convert, because their decision is most likely going to be an emotional one. So, how does this work? Why does all of this stuff matter, right? And what are the differences between? So, when you think about scope, your ICP is your company wide view. I'm looking at the organization that I want to do business with so that I have an idea of what that conversion looks like. I have an idea of what information I need to share and who I need to talk to. When you're thinking about persona, I'm looking at that individual role. Who in this role is going to be my direct link to a yes for the product or service that I want to provide? And then when we're thinking about avatar, this is that like intimate one-on-one opportunity. I'm emotionally connecting with this person and building a different type of trust. In the application process, I'm really looking at, oh, we left off a couple letters. It's a good thing spelling and calories don't count on training days. For the ICP, we're looking at account targeting and qualifications. Does this business, this organization, this enterprise have room for me, and will I fit in with it? Are we a good match for each other? For the persona, I'm looking at their sales and marketing strategy. When are they trying to do business with their organization? When is a pain point for them where they need stuff done? And then the avatar, I'm really trying to just personally connect. Then the level of detail, ICP, broad business metrics. I need to know good information that will give me, the opportunity to really qualify a business before reaching out. Persona, man, I'm missing a whole lot of, I guess we just didn't need these letters today. Persona, personal behaviors, right? Or professional behaviors. Is this a role where people leave? Here's another example. We do a lot of trainings for school systems, and we know, like, a week before spring break, and a week after, it's hard to get in touch with anybody. We know that once May comes in, it's going to be hard to get in touch with anybody until August. We know that if we want to do trainings, that we have to reach out to them on their professional development days and lock those in as soon as possible. This comes with knowing those professional behaviors. What does it look like within their organization? How would my service or product fit with them? And then when we think about avatar, it's that one-on-one personal habits or preferences. When you think about avatar, I always say think about coffee stands and gas stations. So when you are trying to find a location for either, having a coffee business or gas station, one of the biggest things that they talk about is flow of traffic. So in the morning, I want my coffee shop to be on the side of the street where all the traffic is, because people don't want to make a left turn to go into it, and they don't want to make a left turn to come out of it, right? That's personal habits and preferences. Same is true when we think about gas. Where does the traffic bottleneck in the morning? I want to drop a gas station. Where does the traffic bottleneck in the afternoon? I want to drop a gas station. That's understanding personal habits and preferences. Okay. So it doesn't just have to be one off client or customer, but really in a finite way, understanding what your customer does. And then how you use that information. You're really using that for lead qualification, right? When you're thinking about ICP, is this the right business for me to do business with? When you're thinking about persona, you want to use this information to generate your content for them. So I don't typically spend a lot of time generating content for social media. I spend a lot of time generating content as if I'm going to hand deliver and have a conversation with the primary point of contact for that organization. And then for avatar, this is where you want to move into that more influencer space. They need to see you, they need to hear you, they need to build trust with you. And the best way to do that is typically via video. Okay. I know that was a lot. That was a lot. We're moving through it. Y'all are doing good. We're moving through it. So how do you use this? So imagine a software company, right? And how they might use all three. If it's a mid-sized healthcare company with 200 employees, right? I'm looking at that whole organization. What is it about that organization that I can understand and know in order to do business with them? Do I have, remember we talked about that technology stack. Do I have the software system access, whatever that is, to really provide them with the appropriate service to support them and their needs? Like, that's another big thing that you've got to figure out. You don't want to spend all that time making the pitch to realize that you don't have what they are looking for. And then when we're thinking about persona, maybe your pitch is to an IT director, right? And that understands what it is that you're doing, that needs somebody to take some of the weight off of their plate. So you're really pitching to their roles, pain points. How do I communicate with you so you will convert with me? And then the avatar. If you have a software that an individual can use to make their lives easier in their professional role, maybe they're starting a business. Now you're speaking to Sarah, and you've got some demographics, and she just started a business, and your software could truly help her out. This is why it's important to understand, am I speaking to an ICP, like big company or enterprise? Am I speaking to a position or a role of an organization or business, that persona? Or am I speaking directly to a person who is probably the single decision holder that I need to build trust with on a different level? Okay. So why does that matter? It matters because how you do business and in that hierarchy is how you want to segment your communication. Your communication is what drives that nurturing process to get them to convert. So, for example, let's say I take somebody that is a personal trainer might be your, or sorry, health and fitness might be your industry, right? Health and wellness is your industry, but your market is someone specific in health and wellness. And then your niche is even more specific than that, right? So my industry is health and wellness. My market is to, women in their mid 40s. And then my niche is to women who need virtual sessions because they don't have the time or the logistics to go to a gym. So you see how you go from industry to market to niche? It's important to understand this because how are you communicating with them, right? What does that look like? When you're communicating to your IPC, you're at an industry and market level of communication. You're talking about how you are the subject matter expert. You're talking about testimonies. You're talking about how you fixed, saved, cured, whatever for XYZ enterprise level stuff. When you're talking about persona and avatar, you're really narrowing it down to very specific pain points. And you're really guiding them like, here's how I'm going to take you from this pain point to the solution. And it's more narrative. I'm telling the story. I'm getting you to convert and come with me, right? Okay. And let's breathe one more time. I know this is a lot of information. Let's see if we have any questions on any of the platforms. Let's see. I can go back to that screen. Somebody just asked me to go back to the market segmentation hierarchy. This is just so you have an idea of how you communicate. This is also a savvy way to be more direct and speak to whoever you need to speak to. And the reason that I brought this up is because when you're thinking about, do I talk to an ICP or do I talk to an avatar? This gives you an idea of who those folks, where they sit. All right, let's keep it moving before we run out of time. I have faith we can do this. All right. So let's talk about the stages of this pipeline, right? So we know that pipeline is really the stages that we move people from the initial contact to nurturing them, like sharing information, newsletters, social media, other engagement opportunities, registrations, to presenting a proposal, into them considering that purchase and what we need to do to make them say yes, to finally getting paid. All right, so we have awareness, which is at the top of that funnel, and you guys will have some of these slides sent to you, so you have it. That's why it has like the 1.1. It's just to help you visually break down the next steps. But the thing that I want you to remember is your website and your social engagement when you're talking about awareness. These are all of the one direction things that you're really putting out into the world. Next is the interest. This is when somebody likes something or they comment on something or they respond to information that you've put out there. Then you have your consideration. A lot of times this sits with like the pitch. People have questions either through your chat or they have questions if you're in person. This is a lot of price comparison for your different products or services. The intent is when they're like, okay, I think I'm ready to purchase, but I probably have some more questions or there's some hesitations. And this is where you kind of start in the sales process. A lot of people feel like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's too salesy. You're probably right. You probably started being salesy way too soon. You want to build that relationship before you build that sales component to that, build that sales component into that space. And then you have the evaluation. This is when they're considering, okay, is this a good product? Is this a good service? Is this going to fit my needs? And you're kind of back and forth engaging on what that looks like. And then to finally have that purchase, like getting paid. Please don't forget that the other side of your pipeline is the customer's journey. It's their experience too, right? So a lot of times we build these pipelines or these, master systems to get people to convert, but we do it as if we're driving from one state to another. And we all know the difference when we put in our GPS, from one state to another versus if we're like downtown somewhere and we're walking and we can't figure out if we're on the right direction or we need to turn around. And it's not until we go like 2 or 3 blocks that we realize we were walking in the wrong direction, right? The customer's experience is that GPS in walking mode. They're looking to see, are you pointing me in the right direction immediately? Even though your experience building this pipeline is creating the whole thing, the whole step. So keep that in mind as you create these stages that you want them to go through, that it is something that feels good and natural to them. If you cause a bunch of hiccups, you're going to cause a bunch of delays in that conversion. Some of the things that you want to consider prior to really launching or relaunching or identifying where you need to work on is your brand visibility and awareness. Is your website optimized? Are social media profiles up, active? Is your about section filled out? Are you posting industry relevant content? A lot of times we see people post about their business or themselves, but they want you because you are a subject matter expert. So share that industry knowledge with them. It doesn't always have to be your information. Are you being consistent in your brand messaging? Do you have testimonials and reviews that they could look at? Because that's also going to be an important part of this. And is it very clear to them that what you have is different than what someone else has? I was talking with a friend the other day, and we had gone to Vegas a while ago, and she was like, "I want to go to White Castle. I want to go to White Castle." And I was like, "White Castle is not your McDonald's or your Burger King." She just never been and wanted to go. She is, pretty much born and raised in Texas, and so Whataburger is her, burger of choice. And I was trying to explain, it's not the same thing. She's like, "No, I want to go. I want to go. I want to go." And she went and she didn't like it. Part of the reason she didn't like it is because it wasn't Whataburger, right? And so it's really important. What makes you different or unique? Is that clear that you are different and unique, and why that's still okay to your clients or your potential clients? All right, let's work through this funnel. The top of the funnel is awareness. This is where they first find you. So this might be at a speaking engagement, networking event, might be through a Google search, or it might be through a referral. But this is their first introduction. First impressions matter. So any place that you're going to initially engage with someone, what is that going to look like? What experience is that going to look like for them? They're going to notice you. They might engage with you, so they might follow your page or join your newsletter. What you want in this phase is to figure out what is important to them as soon as possible. Okay. Some of the things you want to pay attention to, website visits. Are people landing on your page? If you have a page that more people go to than your home page, then you need to switch that to your home page, the one that everybody visits. Why make them, click extra links just because you created this really beautiful landing page? They're not going to it. So understanding those analytics. Are they engaging with you? Likes aren't everything. Shares are more important. Comments are useful. Use this information to pivot and expand. So if you post something and somebody has another question, don't just answer the question there. Also make another post about it later. Because if they had a question, somebody else had a question too. And then are people reading your information? So content views is more of a deep dive. I can scroll and pause or scroll and, go blow my nose, and that social media platform will count it as engagement, right? And so what we want to be mindful of is, are they opening stuff that you're sending? How long are they watching a video of yours? Or do you have resources that they can download, and are they actually downloading those resources? Some of the things that you need to be aware of is making sure you're pushing out your content. If they don't know about you and you're not sharing your content, they're not going to know about you. So having that information ready and available. This is like you when business hours are closed. When they can't call you or email you, they're going to go to your content marketing. When we think about paid ads, you want to be really sophisticated in your communication journey before you do paid ads. And then PR and outreach. Depending on your business, it might be helpful for collaboration. We did a training about online ads and things like that. And really collaboration, especially if you're first starting out, is the best way to go, especially with influencer collaborations. Now, don't just think person-to-person influencer collaborations. Also think folks that own other blogs, own other businesses, own other media platforms. So maybe it is a digital magazine that you're a guest blogger on, whatever that looks like. These are things that are important because it builds your reputation. Remember, the primary goal in the awareness days is to build that trust and get your information in front of folks. This is not the sale time. This is not when you're trying to get them to convert. This is where you just want to be on their radar. The way algorithms work, they like you, they go to your stuff, they're going to see more of it. So we want to continue to be on their radar. This is you saying hi. All right, interest is the next part of that sales funnel. This is still at the top, but this is where they've moved beyond just figuring out like who you are and what you do. And now they're really going through your information. Now they're really, absorbing what you have to say, or maybe they're reaching out asking questions. Um, I always go to places like Reddit and or any other hub where people are asking questions, and I get a lot of content. I pull the questions and I turn it into content, because if one person has a question, another person has a question, right? And this just makes me more of a subject matter expert. So in this stage, they're moving past kind of the default awareness of you, right? The algorithm is showing you more and more, but they're actually going to your website on their own, or they're going to your pages on their own without being prompted. They remember something you posted or did, and they want to share it without being prompted by default or the algorithm. And so when you start to see these things happening, you're really moving into that nurture space. This is where you really want to be mindful about getting them to sign up for newsletters. In Wix, if I see that a visitor, because each visitor is assigned a unique ID number, if I see that a visitor is on a certain page over and over and over again, I can literally message that visitor and say, hey, you can sign up for our newsletter about this. Or, hey, here's a blog with more information about whatever I see them visiting, right? So this means you're going to be more intentional. This is in that starting in that nurturing space. Figuring out if they're even opening your emails. And if they're opening them, what are they clicking on? We did a training on emails, and we know that the goal for an email is for them to click, because we learn what they're interested in and we can communicate with them directly. So all of your lead magnets need to be available. So if you have digital downloads or videos or things like that, maybe you have them on Facebook, download those bad boys, put them on YouTube, put the link on your website, and figure out ways to get more people to engage with you through a click. Understanding your email sequences, like how to continue to communicate with people or continue to talk about something specific until they purchase, and then provide some of those testimonies. Get really, audacious and say, I just helped this client do XYZ. I'm so excited for this client because her pain point was this, and we took her to, being the hero of her own story, and whatever that looks like in your business or service. Continue to do this. This is you nurturing them. They're interested, and you're really just, it's kind of more into that like dating thing. You've gone on the first, maybe coffee date, and now it's like the official dinner date. Everybody's dressed up kind of thing, and you really want to impress. Don't forget that this is really about your knowledge, being the subject matter expert, finding streamlined solutions and understanding their pain point, and building that trust. Okay, build that trust always. All right, the consideration part of your funnel. This is when they're like, I really think I need somebody to help me with whatever your product or service is. When they get to this point, you want to be top of mind, right? When they say, well, who do you think you're going to get to help you? Well, I did go to this conference and Nisi was presenting, and then I did download this one webinar on demand that she had, and then I did download some of the digital product. You see what I mean? Like, they're going to have these opportunities to reference, like, this is probably who I can go with. When this is happening, you are in the comparison. I call it a spreadsheet. If you've ever tried to like go to software and compare software, they always give it to you like in some sort of Excel spreadsheet display. Or if you're trying to figure out which plan you want to go with, that's where this is at, right? They're looking for the proof. They're looking for the evidence. They're looking for the thing that says, oh, I'm definitely going to go with her instead of them. And a lot of times it's based off of your credibility. Okay. Sometimes I will think that I have such a great idea and product or service, and I will put it out there. And I always put out double. So if I have a really big, great idea, I always put out another smaller, maybe more specific idea to go with it as a just in case. And I can't tell you, unfortunately, how many times the smaller idea got more attention than the bigger idea. This is really important because it helps me understand, is it my price point? Is it my time? A lot of times when people do all in trainings, it's not just you showing up for the live session. It's also you going back to the slides or back to the recording or back to download stuff. And some people don't have that level of commitment, right? So how do I ensure that they understand all in means this, drop in means that, right? Just being really clear in how I communicate that. One of the ways that you do it is free trials. Get people engaged and interested in understanding before they purchase, and they're more likely to purchase because they already understand how your world works. Some of the things that you're going to be doing, like I said, those free trials, offering the product guide or ROI calculators. Here's why you want to pick this plan or package over the other. Again, always with testimonials. People, customers are like kids. Like if you as a parent says it's a good idea, they're not going to go for it. But if somebody else says it's a good idea, then it's a good idea. And then give opportunities for quick chats. We have about 15 hours built into our calendar month for free consultation quick chats. It's kind of first come, first serve, but it gives people the opportunity to say, hey, I just have a question. Can you answer this? Absolutely. And that leads to conversion as well. The things that you want to remember is proof. Show proof, those testimonies, do videos of a happy client, have confidence in yourself, and people will have confidence in you. Make sure they feel like you're talking directly to them because they're more likely to convert. Now, the them is whoever you picked, an ICP, a persona, or an avatar. All right, the intent. This is where they're like, yep, I'm getting ready to buy. And they have like the credit card in their hand and they're ready to do it, right? This is where you want to go ahead and put your sales hat on. They're at the point of seriously saying, this is what I'm getting ready to do. And what you don't want is to have failures in that, crucial part of their journey. So make sure that you're addressing any of their concerns. Reinforce what's important to you and what's important to them, and let them know what the next steps will look like before they even take the next step. Years and years and light years ago, I used to actually be a hairstylist. And I worked in one salon that didn't offer color, like they didn't offer color as a service to clients. And there was a stylist. It was a brand new salon, small town, a stylist who, new to the area, needed a job, but she was a color specialist. And she got hired, didn't look at the services that we provided. It never came up in the interview. And on the first day of her job, she was doing a consultation to give somebody color for their hair. And she was like, where's all the color kept at? Where's the cabinet with all the color? And we had to explain, oh, we don't do color here. We're just doing, haircuts like barbershop style, right? And she was like, wait a second. I didn't realize that you guys didn't do that. So don't get to that point, right? That's exhausting. It's exhausting for you as a business owner, and it's exhausting for that client to have done all this research, spent all this time, built trust in you, only to find out that what you have is not what they thought you were going to have. All right. Things to track. Demos. If you have a product or service that would be best done or demonstrated through these demos, do it. Think about that demo that I just did where she's like, nope, this business isn't for you. And I'm still in a little shock, but I'm so grateful. And I will always tell that story, right? Schedule the next call. So let's say you did a chat and they were still on the fence. Say, hey, listen, let's give it a couple of weeks. Don't just leave it there. Schedule that next chat, right? Really bring that in. And then really understand your process for them to collect information. Is it easy for them to access or download proposals from you or purchase from you? And then know what your follow-up emails are going to look like so that you can make other decisions. All right. Here's some of the things that you're going to be doing. Really on a microscopic scale, making sure these things work well and run well for that potential client. This is where they will either swipe with their credit card or put their credit card away. And the last thing you want to do is anything that will prevent them from making that purchase with you. Remember, the goal is to address any of those final hesitations, any of their concerns. For me, one of the things that we do before they accept the proposal is we do literally, we call it final hesitation call. And I challenge them to find concerns, gaps, pain points that we didn't talk about, or areas of concern that maybe happened historically with them with someone else. So we can kind of just hash it all out and know what to do. This leads to a higher conversion because I'm not hiding what I can and can't do. And I'm okay with saying that's something that we don't do, but here's something that we do, right? I'm really confident in the product or service that we provide. This will really expedite, again, that conversion because they feel like you hear and get them all the way. And even if you don't offer 100%, they're excited for the 80%. All right, we're moving into the bottom of that funnel. This is the evaluation. This is where we are looking at the swipe. So a lot of times people are like, well, they're still not figuring it out. They figured it out, but we want to make them feel reassured, right? This is where we give them that reassurance. They definitely want to do it. So the hang up is usually time or revenue. They're like, yes, I want to go with you, but I don't know if I have the time, or maybe the timing isn't right, or maybe I need to wait 2 weeks. Or yes, I definitely want to go with you, but I wasn't expecting your product or service to be this amount. Again, remove roadblocks. Can you negotiate your packages or prices or services so that it removes those roadblocks to close that deal? I love a good package, but use it as a guideline, not as an end all be all. Understand that not every package fits everyone. And if you can personalize it in any way, you can help that decision maker move into absolute yes. Also, if you are looking at the persona, remember that's the role or the person that's responsible for that. You may need to look at bringing in the decision maker, maybe even a little bit prior to this point, to make sure you can kind of seal the deal. We do a lot of conferences, like coordinating conferences. And one of the things that we've started to do is create this basically why your boss should let you come white paper. And it just gives the benefits of that employee attending a conference, right? So we bring in the decision maker into that process. Make sure that you personalize and customize those proposals. I know it's easy to get in template, mode and just kind of move through it. Understand how flexible you can be in your payments and pricing. We had signed recently a $25,000 contract, but because of the way their budget cycle was set up, they were only able to give us an initial deposit of $3,200. And with any project, a big chunk of your work is at the beginning, right? But we did our research on the organization. We knew that they had the revenue. We Better Business Bureau them. There were no complaints, all of that stuff, which is why it's important. ICP, persona, or avatar. Really create that final, step for them. Make that transaction or transition really beautiful. This includes their onboarding, right? So there's a lot of reassurance. You've got this. Okay, you did this. This is great. Now let's get you onboarded. How do you like to communicate? What does that look like for you? All of those things are important because once they sign the paper, that's great, but it's not until you get paid that the conversion actually happens, right? So you want this process to be a happy process. This is why when you go and buy a house and you go to closing and you're signing all of your paperwork, your realtor's there with a plant or a gift basket or whatever, because it's stressful signing all that paperwork and figuring out or trying to remember what you're supposed to do next, and whatever is important and in that moment. And then your realtor's there with like, oh, I love you so much, this is great, here's a flower and a plant and room deodorizer, or whatever they give, right? It's because that process is an emotional process. And then the purchase. So it's not so much the purchase, like them paying, as much as it is really going into them buying and you onboarding them successfully. Make sure this is seamless. Make sure that any hiccups that come up, you have a contract or you have an agreement, something that keeps you safe and keeps them safe at the same time. We want to make sure we minimize any friction during this process. So here's an example. When I first started doing business with organizations, I did not understand like their accounting process. Like people would want to do business with me, but I had to become a vendor first, and I had to be an approved vendor next. And then I had to provide documentation and capacity documents and all this other stuff. And I didn't know that. I had no clue that was part of it. So they might have said, yes, absolutely. The decision maker might have said, yep, we're going to do with it. We approve this proposal. But then I had to go through the accounting process that I didn't know existed. Minimize that friction for them. Don't make them feel like it was a bad decision once they, crossed over into that space. In this time, you are doing a lot of paperwork, a lot of processing. Remember, they feel relief because the decision has been made. Don't overwhelm them with the onboarding, make that smooth. We ask our clients, what timeline do you need for onboarding? What does that look like? What do you have the bandwidth for? Make this a smooth process for them. This will help you ensure you get paid immediately, right? Understand who is going to manage that account, those finances. How are you checking in to make sure you get paid? What does that look like for you? Remember, the purchase isn't the end. It's really the beginning of their experience with you, being, the client or customer for them, and vice versa. Make it easy, make it simple. The last thing you want is to, yes, get the sale and then really drop the ball because you spent so much time nurturing them that you don't have a process to onboard or to actually do the business for them. Okay, we are almost through and you guys are doing great. I see a couple of questions. Let me say this first. Owning a business, starting a business, is a combination of really, science and art. And this is where those two spaces really come together. It's really important to understand, when you are passionate about a product or a service, that's great. You can talk about that product or service probably all day, every day. You can probably tell people why you're the best person for it. But if you don't understand how you are getting customers from when you first attract them until they convert and you onboard them and you get paid, you have a hobby, not a business. And in order to do business, you really need to understand your revenue cycle, forecasting your revenue, and a big chunk of that sits in understanding that pipeline, understanding how your customers behave and how they pay. So decide, is this a passion and I kind of sort of get paid and kind of randomly, recklessly? Or is this something where I am serious about making money? Because that's why most people go into business, right? Even if it's a passion project, we want to make money. Otherwise, we can just volunteer our time and not be concerned with this at all. Own the business, own this part of the business. If this seems too much or overwhelming, get you somebody that can optimize your business process, right? And especially this, you can actually get somebody to kind of help you build out your stages so you kind of know what you should be doing when, but really take the time to invest in this. and understand this because it will help you with future decisions. Okay? All right, so let me go to the questions that I have. And if you have additional questions, go ahead and drop them into the chat. And we've got good timing. Okay, let's see. So do I recommend hiring somebody for this? So it really, truly just depends, right? I think the thing that you need to understand is the information that I'm sharing with you today is kind of a big chunk of information. And remember, we are microscopically looking at all the steps and details. In a second, I'm going to kind of pull this out so you can have a higher bird's view of what you need to do. If you feel like owning this part, doing this part is going to be a pain point or keep you from the love of your business, I would either one, barter, or get with someone that can do this part and you do the creative part for them, right? So maybe you're super creative, but you have a person that's like systems, business analyst kind of thing. You do their social media, they do your operations, right? Because I get it. I understand. Especially for women business owners, we typically finance out of pocket all of our stuff. So bartering is the first thing that I would look for. When you go to these networking events, maybe stop looking for clients and start looking for collaborators. Okay. Second, I would figure out what part of my budget can I spend to get someone to do some of these things. I'm gonna, in the next couple of slides, I'm gonna show you kind of, we'll pull back a little bit and you'll see a, eagle's view of these steps, not so much on a granular scale. And then you can say, okay, I can do two of these parts of the funnel pretty well, but this one I'm gonna be stuck on and I'm gonna need help. Also, you don't have to do all of it at once, right? You're going to assess where you're at, what you have, what you don't have. And then you're going to say, okay, which one of these gaps is causing me the most pain so that I can make a better decision moving forward. And you're going to continue to do this, right? This is not like a task that you check the box and you're done. This is an ongoing living component of your business. When I first started my business, one of the best tips that I heard, and it was from a young lady. Oh gosh, man, oh, I can't think of her name. She actually used to sell Mary Kay. Oh, I can't think of her name. But anyway, she used to sell Mary Kay. She grew that, was $1 million earner or whatever, and then she went into her own business and she did a lot of finance. So she worked with finance industry a lot. And one of the things that she said was, Gloria Banks, that's her name. Woo! I thought I was going to forget. Gloria Banks. One of the things that she said was, when you start a business, don't start it as if you're going to wear all the hats. Start it as if you are going to aggressively fill these positions as soon as possible because your brain thinks differently, right? If I start a business and I'm thinking I'm going to have to wear all these hats until I can't no more, versus if I start a business and say, okay, this is the finance department, this is the marketing department, and I'm wearing the hat of the person that's going to replace me in the marketing department, how you look at your business and the operation side also looks different because now you're not merging and kind of, commingling the things that you wouldn't if you had a separate person running each of those departments. And so as grow in your business and expand and scale, think about that. Who's going to replace me to do these things in my business and what things will they do? Because as you scale and get bigger and have more clients or customers, you don't want to start thinking about it after you get them, right? We talked about that. Does what you offer match that client or customer? Okay. Let's see. All right. All right, so let's peel back a little bit. Let's go to that 50,000-foot view, right? So remember with the customer journey. So here's the short of it. Here's what you really want to take away today. The rest you can go back and watch later. You have the top of your funnel, tofu, the middle of your funnel, mofu, and the bottom of your funnel, bofu. So you want tofu, mofu, bofu. That's it. I want you to remember that. Tofu, mofu, bofu. Because this is going to help you when you're doing a business process. Where does this sit? Does this sit in my tofu, my mofu, or my bofu? Okay. So each of these stages is important. And this is how you can kind of break down, okay, I can do the top really well, or I can do the bottom really well. I need some support or help in the other spaces. So that awareness stage, that tofu stage that we talked about, this is where brand awareness happens and you attract your customers. Okay. Make sure that they can discover your brand. That means marketing, blogs, videos, all of that good stuff on social media, engaging. If you have it, paid advertisement or PR outreach. Don't forget, collaboration is part of that PR outreach. The things that you're paying attention to are your website traffic, your social media engagement, and your content views. This tells you if what you're putting out matters. Social media is also changing. Let me back up. Media in general is also changing. TikTok came in and really, jacked up the way everybody is used to algorithms. So it used to be you had to have, 100,000 followers before, anybody would ever see you or your content. And the way the algorithm works on TikTok is you could have 5 followers. If your content hits at the right time with the right information, then you are going to go viral. And so people are searching for that viral opportunity. And here's my suggestion: be consistent, be on brand, and even if like the first 30 videos you put out, nobody's watching, but you know that it's good stuff, keep going, because it's just a matter of them hitting it or the right customer hitting it. Okay. In your interest and consideration stage, this is the middle of the funnel. This is your MOFU. This is where you're nurturing. This is where you're dating that client, right? You're putting your best foot forward. You're giving them all these insider tips. You're inviting them to these exclusive VIP sessions. You're doing all those things, right? You're creating personalized email sequences. You're giving them, industry specific information. You're really making sure that you're targeting them in any of your content. These are ways that you can truly expedite that conversion. So your content downloads are really important. This tells you, even if you put out a webinar, not until you go back and see, did people download, the template that I gave, right? Or how many people showed up to your webinar. And then the lead scoring, that is where we were talking about like that qualification. Is this person qualified to be a client? And then you have that bottom of the funnel, your BOFU. So this is that conversion process. This is where you get paid. Make sure that they're ready to buy. I personally have lost so many deals because I needed them to buy for my revenue, but they were not ready to buy. And I became really salesy and pushy. And instead of answering questions or being more personal or, working out any hesitations that they had, I put urgency behind it because I thought that that's would work. That's what would work, right? And we have urgency in marketing, right? But the 2 more days, if you don't get this in 2 more days, it's going to be gone. If you don't, right? Those clients, they were either the worst relationship and clients that I ever had because I pressured them to be my client without working through their hesitations, or they complained the most about the service or product that I provided because they were really pressured in that timing. So make sure that they're ready to buy, have those final conversations, get everything approved, let them know what the next steps are. And this requires you to have that content ready. You don't want to, I can't tell you, and listen, I've been there, where I had a meeting with somebody that's like, hey, do you do this XYZ thing? And I was like, well, I usually do 1, 2, 3, but yeah, I can do that because I know you have money to pay me. And I would meet with them, I would find out what they wanted, and then I would get off the call and I have to go create all this content to match what they were asking for. So be mindful again that when you're doing this, that you have that information ready to go. You have that, content for them to kind of read over, internally process, whatever that looks like. This is important because it tells you how much time did I spend nurturing this contact and how much did it cost me to get them. So is my $200 investment in this, contact worth this $500 product sale? Maybe, maybe not, but it helps you know. It also streamlines your onboarding. Make sure that's good to go. Your onboarding should be finished before your first lead drops in. So you should know how your client is going to finalize an onboard with you before you start lead generation. So now we get to work. We do the work that needs to be done. Understand your audience. Know what they like, know what they don't like, their demographics. Remember, are they an ICP? Are they a persona? Or are they an avatar? ICP is for business to business strictly. Persona, it's usually a profession or a role that's making those decisions or has say in the decisions of an organization. An avatar is usually an individual, and that is built really heavily in emotions and feelings and trust. Assess where you're at. Am I in a spot where I can bring on 10 more clients? If I can't bring in 10 more clients, I don't need to do paid advertising to bring in 10 more clients, right? Really, work on that process, that journey for them, so that when they do get to you, you can actually take care of them. When I first started, one of the things that I did, and I'm so, so grateful that I did it, was when I first started, we were doing a lot of website building. And we literally would, depending on the website type, identify how many hours a week it would take us to complete it. And if we didn't have that time slot available, they had to go like to the next month. So I might get a client, sign a client, and I'll be like, listen, I can't start your website until another 4 weeks. Is that okay? And it was the scariest thing that I've ever done. But I never had a no, because they were like, I really appreciate that. Because that tells me, instead of getting all the clients that you can get and not being able to manage them, you are going to have an intimate number of clients and you're going to really be able to take care of me and my needs. I don't have to worry about chasing you and things like that. So understand what that looks like. Assess your current funnel. Where are those gaps at? Do I need to fix the gaps? Do I need help fixing the gaps? Those are the things that you want to look at. And then just pinpoint those areas of optimization before you move forward. When you do bridge those gaps, when you do strengthen those areas of weakness, understand that it is not an end all be all. Understand that you might fix one part of your funnel, but create a bottleneck in another part, right? This is why we say don't do ads until you've got your funnel process or your onboarding done. Because why would you spend $5,000 in ads only to have them bottleneck with the process to pay, right? Your website can't manage it, can't hold it, or whatever that looks like. Just be mindful when you do make those changes that you don't create situations in another space. And then move forward. A lot of times we spend a lot of time in planning and preparing and designing and laying stuff out, but it's not until you're actually doing the stuff that it works. Grab a buddy, grab a friend, somebody that's going to tell you the truth and say, hey, if you were my customer and I walked you through these stages, would you be more likely to sell or less? What should I keep? What should I let go of? What matters most, right? All of those things, so that you can get to the point to really execute this idea of having a funnel. Understand that you want to be able to onboard people really easily. It's not them saying yes to the proposal that's the win. It's once they're onboarded, that's the win. And always adjust. You're going to continue to adjust. But I want you to dedicate time. So just like you should be doing a strategic plan, and you should be looking at that at least quarterly for metrics, you should be looking at your sales funnel. These things go hand in hand. If it's taking you, 6 months to convert for $200, but 6 months to also convert for $2,000, maybe your $200 product should go away, right? If it's taking you the same amount of time to convert and it's a different pay for you. Again, it's a cycle, not a one-time task. Understand your audience, assess your efforts, identify those gaps, strengthen any spot where you can immediately. Understand that you might cause a bottleneck someplace else. Track and analyze stuff as much as you can to the best of your ability. And then, the real true success is that you build these relationships, because it's not even the payment, it's the referral. Did you do such a great job on that customer journey that they refer somebody else to you? I have had so much more success ensuring that my onboarding process and the things that I do to keep my clients are of such high value that I don't have to do the same amount of work in lead generation. My current clients do that for me by referral. And there's no better compliment than to have a brand advocate out there telling people, about the work that you do. Okay. All right, let me open up everything and go back to questions. And we are still in a good timing. Got a few minutes left. All right. I own a nail tech business. Where should I start? Because I don't have a funnel. Okay, I would start with figuring out who your client is. And let me also say this. One of the beautiful things about business is sometimes we start off thinking that one person or persona is our client. And then we realize maybe that's not worth it. I can do something else, right? So identify who it is that you want to do business with and who it is that you're currently ready to do business with. So you might be ready for an avatar, person to person, right? Where you're talking to individuals to convert to being a client of yours. But it might be that what you want is to do maybe lash parties. And now you're talking about a different individual or a person or role that can help host those things. So, initially you might be talking to person. Secondary, where you want to go with it, you might be talking to someone that does events or someone that manages like mom groups or girl clubs or things of that nature, right? So really identify who it is that you want to do business with. ICP, persona, avatar. Then figure out what your products and services are as it relates to them. Are you trying to give them market product or service, industry product or service, or niche product or service, right? So if you have a very specific type of lash, you're probably more in a niche space. If you provide lash services and also sell DIY lashes, you're moving more towards a market, a specific market. Think about when COVID happened and people were not going into nail salons. The nail artists that pivoted well identified that they needed to go from doing it themselves to a market where people were DIYing their nails at home. And you have a lot of nail artists that all they do all day is craft nails, like press on nails, and distribute them. So understanding like who you're talking to and how, and what you want them to do or where you're going, your growth in your own business. I would start there. Then I would figure out, okay, do I really want to spend more time on one-on-one, or do I want to spend time on 1-in-20? So another example, I used to do this type of training to one person at a time. I would spend 2 hours teaching one person at a time something because I thought it's intimate, it's more personal. We talk about their business specifically, so on and so forth. And I would curate all this content to teach one person. and then there was 2 full hours off my books that I couldn't talk to anybody else. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll open it up to 5, or maybe I'll open it up to 10, right? And now we're using different platforms to teach, because what happens is, especially now, people are in different digital spaces. A lot of us can listen to a webinar, go back to the recording and be good. Some of us need to be like, really focused on it and be okay. People engage by asking other questions that you might not have thought of. And then people will circle back. So whether it's open office hours, or it is, those 15-minute, quick question appointments or chats, things like that. But I got more people into my funnel faster. My funnel is really, really short. And so you don't want it to be this long, drawn out process where they got to go through step and step and step. You want to be as direct and precise and concise as possible in your funnel. Okay. I own a traveling business, and they say be I own a traveling business, and they say that you talk to the destination people, not to a person. Um, Not sure. Oh, I think I understand. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. So, like, if you own a travel business, they say talk to all the Disney folks. If you're gonna sell Disney travel, if they say honeymoon folks, and is that what you mean by destination? I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Okay. So it's kind of sort of the same thing, but what does that look like? Are you talking to the mom who always does all of the work herself to organize the family Disney trip or the family vacation? Or are you talking to the mom's group, and they want to have a greater discount when they take their kids or their families to Disney? So that's why we have that difference between the ICP versus the persona versus the avatar, because it does depend. So you can still be talking in the same, space, same industry or market, but who in that market are you talking to? Is it in the market or is it in the niche, right? So an example would be, persona would be the mom group, the leader of the mom group, and they're planning a trip to Disney with all of their families together. Avatar would be just the mom herself that's planning her own family's trip. And then when you think about like the hierarchy of segmentation of your business, um, when you think about, if you're talking to the market, you're talking Disney, right? Disneyland, Disney World, whatever that looks like. If you're talking to the niche, then you're talking about, let's say, the mom who takes her family who has a child that's in a wheelchair. Like that's a specific niche of folks that you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I'm trying to make sure I don't see any other ones popping up. Am I going to give you some time? Oh, no, I'm going to give you a minute back of your life. I thank you all so much. Be on the lookout in the next couple of days for this recording. For those of you that have the portal, you'll get access to the downloads. We are redoing them because we're splitting it into two because it was just way too much for one. So you will probably, when you go back into the portal, get a notification that you've got to like go back up, you missed something. It's just us adding more information into that portal for you guys. For those of you that were our drop-ins, you guys will get the digital download. So you'll get the PDF templates that will sit in the portal for the other guys, and everybody will get the link to this recording and the recording for the next part. The next part is really about, and it's on demand, so you can do it whenever you want. There's no scheduled time. It's really about like, okay, what platform do I use? Like, what CRM do I use? What am I looking for in a CRM? How much do they cost? What does it look like for my business industry? How do I use it? So you'll see some CRMs in action so that you can make better decisions. And the other thing that we're trying to do is get some discount links for you guys for those CRMs. So if you have some, you're like, oh yeah, I do want to use this, we can hopefully get you a link to that discount CRM. So that's what's next. So be on the lookout for the next couple of days from emails from us and changes in your portal if you're on the all-in group. Other than that, I enjoyed you guys so much. Thank you for your questions. Feel free, you can always reach out to us. Go ahead and email me, Nisi at ajbconsultinggroup.com if you have any other questions. Otherwise, you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You're welcome.